This is no ordinary pod. No ordinary pod. This is no ordinary pod.
NFL's back.
No ordinary pod.
You smell that, Noah?
I think I do.
A fresh field of grass has just been cut. There's noises in the background. There are whistles. Coaches yelling. Helmets colliding. Camaraderie building. Rumors being told. This player's going to bust out. This player's going to falter. This player's in trade rumors. This player's getting cut. It's football season, Noah. Your favorite time of year. A lot of people's favorite time of year. How are you doing on our first full football, not full, our first football pod of the year, July 25th? How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. You know, we're finishing up the last, I got like 10 days left of grind left before I really get to dive fully into the whole football analysis. I got the last couple finals for my classes that are going, I think are going pretty well. Tallahassee weather is pretty much same old, you know, really rainy. Actually, we're kind of like in a cold front. I think the high yesterday was like 82, and it was cloudy all day, which is better than, once again, you know, the highest high yesterday in the U.S. was in Death Valley, California at 118. Any guesses on which state and the temperature that had the lowest low in continental U.S.?
Continental. Where was it last week?
It was in Stanley, Idaho.
Oh. I'm not going to go Idaho again. I'm going to go with Montana.
Close once again, but wrong.
Wyoming?
It was in Klamath. Nope. It was in Klamath, Oregon at 30 degrees, which that sounds... I know Tallahassee is kind of like in a colder front, I guess you could say, but 30 degrees sounds phenomenal to be a part of right now.
Man, I do a lot of things to get to that. Because Tampa, it is terrible. It's been raining all day. It's been raining all week. Can't golf a lot. Looking at the radar now, it's just green and red and yellow. The high is probably 96. I don't even know. It just feels like 105 all the time. So hopefully in the next couple weeks, the depression of weather talk subdues, but probably not. So we actually have a lot to talk about this show. I have a couple. We'll start with one question for you. So last week we talked about your first love, your true love, the Nebraska Cornhuskers and their outlook on this year. What would you consider so let's move to Florida State, your old employee. Well, you didn't get paid. What? I did. What do you consider a successful season for Florida State? Their over-under is, I believe, 7.5 at some markets. 7. Their over-under's at 7, according to what Phil Steele uses. So, is eclipsing the 8 wins, or you've been inside this young team, you know the players and all that stuff, especially this year's. A lot of starters returning on both sides of the ball, especially defense. What would make you happy as an FSU fan, now that you are a supporter?
I would say 8 wins. 8 wins, I think everyone will be very, very content with how this season went. If it's 7, the thing is with the difference with, if it would have been 7 last year, I think people would have been really excited because the Noles had one of, if not the toughest schedule in college football last year. They played 2 playoff teams and got beat by the national champions in Clemson. They lost to Notre Dame on the road. They also lost to a Florida team that ended the season really well and took it to a Michigan team in the bowl game. They played tough against Syracuse, I wouldn't say surprisingly, because the Syracuse has had a nice slow growth of their program the last couple of years. and hung around with Syracuse on the road earlier in the season. So last year, I think, the difference in last year and them making a bowl game was them losing the Miami game. It changed the entire course of the season. I was blessed enough to get to travel with the team down to that game, and it was high. I have never experienced anything like that. I, even as just a glorified water boy, was getting heckled by some of the Miami fans.
Don't do that to you. Don't sell yourself short like that. No one could tape those legs and tie those shoes like you, man.
I'm just no Jake File, but I do have the best juice at practice, according to all the players. So, as soon as you blow a 27-7 lead with 9 minutes left in the third quarter, and as soon as the Miami scored and made it 27-14, that entire sideline acted as if they were losing, not up 2 possessions. So I think that getting to 8 wins and showing that they can battle through all that adversity on a much easier schedule. I think the 2 biggest trap games this year are going to be the season opener with Boise, but that's not really a trap game because it's a season opener. And honestly, always NC State. NC State's always going to be that team that kind of just has FSU's number, and I hope that they can bounce back and not make it happen, because I think they're going to lose 2 of these 3 games. I think they're probably going to lose between Clemson, between Florida, and between, what was the third toughest game?
Miami, Syracuse.
That's who I meant. I think between those 3, I think they're going to lose 2. And I don't know if anyone's going to be able to beat Clemson this year. Clemson doesn't have the veteran D-line like they had. And that's Florida State's strength going into this year with Big Marv leading the way. They got Robert Cooper coming in, who was a true freshman last year, came into the program at 390 plus and still had good feet. Saw him in the parking lot last week or so. He's down to 345. And so allegedly between him, Corey Durden, and Big Marv, they're going to be doing a solid 3-man rotation on that interior D-line with a former 5-star on one end, Josh Kando, and then going to be probably rotating 2 or 3 different guys on the other end, but probably leading it off with Dennis Briggs, who is he was a freshman last year, but the dude is just a monster. So I'd say 8 wins, but I don't think last year it was an ugly 5. A very ugly 5 wins. And if it's a pretty 7 wins, I think people will be okay with it.
A game that I'm looking at is the game at Virginia too, because they're with Bronco Mendenhall. They're well coached. That's a night game on the road. Those are always difficult for teams in general. But if we can handle business in the Boise State game, I think that game won't be as nerve-wracking for me. But Virginia's just a well-coached team, and they give teams trouble and Bronco Mendenhall's come in there and done a really good job revitalizing the program. So we'll just see what happens with that game. But yeah, the schedule's manageable. I think 8 wins is expected with now in his second year with his quarterback, most likely Blackman in there. But we'll see. One more quick college football question. So to circle back to Nebraska. Between Nebraska and the Utah Utes, who have an over-under of 9.5 wins, 75-1 win the title, return their whole D-line, and now they have extremely easy schedule, get their quarterback and running back, all of these things. And Phil Steele's, I'm using Phil Steele because I think he is the best college football writer for information, for breaking down units. Just his guide's amazing, and ESPN purchases it. You can get it. They put it on their site behind their paywall, ESPN Plus, but I pay for ESPN Plus, so I get all these articles, and this is a great article. All of these things are just very informational, quick summaries. And he says that 2 of his 9 sets of power rankings have them going 12-0. Utah. So between Utah and Nebraska, who are over under 8.5, yet have a 35-1 odds to win the title, who do you think is the better bet to run the table and maybe not even reach the playoff, but run the table and be in playoff talk?
As much as I want to say Nebraska because of my homage and the potential that they have on offense, there's still too many holes on their offensive line, or not necessarily holes, but unknowns on that offensive line. Too many unknowns in that inside linebacker position. But as you said, both Nebraska has a very strong D, probably one of the stronger D lines they've had in recent history. But I'm looking at Utah's schedule, and I think Utah has a better chance of running the table. And I think part of it is Nebraska hasn't had, this is going to be their first time with true success over, in a while, at least while all these players have been on the roster. So I think they might be lacking that experience that they need to have, that wisdom of when stuff starts hitting the fan and things get tough, being able to come together and know what's happening. Obviously, a losing season the way that they had last year can, especially how it ended well, can kind of make it bounce back a little bit better, and you can help navigate through the tough times. But Utah played well last year.
Yeah.
They played really well.
With backups at quarterback too.
With plethora of backups. They lost their Zach Moss, their running back, went out with it. I'm pretty sure it was a knee injury last year, but he's a stud. And if he's coming back healthy, that defense, it's never about, is their defense good enough to stop teams in the Pac-12? I don't think it's ever going to be that question, because their defense is always stout. They get some of those Polynesian boys in there who are monsters inside. They get those quick guys out of California that want to come and play and make big plays and be the guy instead of being overshadowed and be another dude just at USC.
And Salt Lake's dope.
That's true.
That's a very. Don't mean to interrupt you. So their opening game is again at BYU. You being
the Holy War.
Yes, you being a couple stones throws away from Salt Lake, and in this, I assume a lot of your friends went to Utah, and you had a couple go to BYU. Is that rivalry like a very serious rivalry, or is it like a polite rivalry?
No, those two schools hate each other.
Okay, just double checking.
I would say it's on not the same level, but the same type of hatred that FSU Miami fans have for each other.
Oh, I feel like FSU and Miami, they have like a respect for each other. Actually, I'm not going to say respect. That's a bad thing to say. I feel like it's more so I don't know. I just know that more Florida State people I know and more Miami people I know, they really hate Florida more than the other two. But it is what it is. But yeah, I like Utah. I've always liked Utah. I like Kyle Whittingham. They're always fun to play because I personally like fundamental football, and they play that. But looking at their schedule, the BYU game to open the season, that's going to be tough. And guess what? That's a Thursday night 10:15 kickoff, baby. So we're thrown right into that rivalry. At USC is going to be, who knows? Urban Meyer could be there already. Go ahead.
Another note just to add to I wanted to double check before I threw it out there, but Utah made the Pac-12 championship game last year.
Yep, 2 losses.
And the only reason I watched that game, and that game was in the snow. in Washington, like thick, wet snow. And they lost 3-10 to Washington.
Yep.
And that was without their starting running back, and I'm pretty sure without their starting quarterback as well. Like, that they would truly have as their number one if healthy. This team has taken the necessary steps to be in a position to be able to go 10-2, 11-1, 12-0. This might be the best Utah team that last year I was excited about. I was so excited about Utah. I watched so many of their games. And they just struggled to move the ball down the field consistently because of the lack of experience at the quarterback position. But this might be one of the best Utah teams that we'll get to see since Alex Smith and Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
And I don't think, like, Washington always, like, especially with Chris Peterson, is always going to be a tough out. Like, I think they're the best team in the Pac-12. Them, Washington State, Utah, and then after that, it really drops off, in my opinion, because UCLA is still not going to be there this year. USC, we'll wait and see. But there are none of the Arizona schools are all that great right now. Colorado has a chance, but they lost a lot, and they're not returning all that much. But Utah didn't lose a game last year in double digits. All their losses were in single digits. 2 points, 5 points, 7 points, twice. That's it.
I mean, I thought they lost to Arizona State by more, but
maybe I'm looking at
Let me look at it real quick. 2018. My math could be off. Yeah, it was 38-20 to Arizona State. And they lost, and they were down one going into the fourth quarter, and Arizona State outscored them 14-0. I believe that was a Pac-12 after dark game, which is...
It was a Pac-12 after dark game, and it was a huge trap game because that was right after they had come... I even told my friends, like Zach and Kobe, White Mamba, that... this is a trap game, and don't be surprised if Arizona State kicks the lights out of Utah, and they both go, "No, bro, we're riding a high. Like, there's no way we can lose this game," and then they go and get smacked. So that's also a learning experience to be able to go on the road and do what they need to do. And then they lost to a really, like I told you, that Northwestern Utah Holiday Bowl was one of the bowl games I was most excited for, and it ended up being a great game. Very much back and forth, and they lost 31-20, but it was a great game. And I think that this Utah team has a lot more experience. So I would say, to answer the question in total, I would say Utah has a better chance of going 12-0, not because the Big Ten is more difficult, but they have to get past Washington. Nebraska has to get past Ohio State, and getting past Ohio State is a taller order than getting past Washington for where Nebraska was last year and where from Utah was last year and where they're going in terms of the team continuity and the team chemistry and the being there, acting and knowing that they've been there before.
Very well said. To correct ourselves real quick, it was not a Pac-12 after dark game. It was a beautiful day game. It looks like it's a beautiful 95 degrees in Arizona State in Arizona. I'm looking at the highlights right now. But what were you going to say?
I was just going to transition away and ask you a quick question.
Oh, I've been cooking up this one. If it's the question I think it is.
It should be. We're switching gears. We love talking college football, but whenever there's NBA news, we got to go to our guy, Michael Dugar. The Wizards are going to offer Bradley Beal the max as soon as it's available to do so. Should Bradley Beal take the max? Why? And if he doesn't, what team would you like to see him on?
I don't even know if he's getting pressured to, but I think Washington wants to lock him down so he'd be a more valuable trade. So he can net a bit larger return. And I say that because if you can extend a contract of 5 years at the ultimate max, yes, you're paying a lot of money, but you're paying a lot of money for 5 years of prime Bradley Beal. There are not many two-way wings that are better than Bradley Beal in the NBA. And there's not many players in the NBA that are this complete of a player at age 26. So him signing this deal would give the Wizards an opportunity to say, hey, you have this player under control for 5 years, 4 or 5 years, instead of 2 years. That makes him a lot more valuable trade player. And the team that stood out to me immediately was the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I actually went to the ESPN trade machine, took a little gander, and found out that there's this certain trade that works. So, even just to spice things up for the Wizards, it went away. Okay. The T-Wolves will trade Andrew Wiggins, whose contracts will match up with Bradley Beal. You trade Wiggins, Jeff Teague's expiring deal, 2022 and 2024 first-round draft picks. So at the end, when Beal's gone, when his contract's up, you have a draft pick with a Bradley Beal-less team of the Timberwolves, which amps up the possibilities of that pick being in the lottery. And in return, the T-Wolves will get Bradley Beal, and I believe I had, because my trade just went away on my phone, and I believe Ish Smith. So you get some point guard depth, and you get Bradley Beal. You lose some draft picks, but here you go. You go all in with Karl-Anthony Towns. A player who, with Bradley Beal, a player who's not Jimmy Butler, who's 28, 29, trying to, grizzled vet. You're going with Bradley Beal, guy who's 26, in his prime, fits their team. And only thing that I can't get this out of my head, Karl Towns, Bradley Beal, last year's first-round pick Josh Okogie, who is going to be a monster 3-and-D player. Then you have Jarrett Culver, a monster himself, can play on-ball, off-ball, point, can defend, tough-nosed player, 6'6". That for the next 5 to 10 years, for the next 5 years, I'm not even kidding. I will take that above any young core in the NBA. Over the Pelicans, over... Only team is maybe not the Nuggets because they have so many young players. But outside of Denver, seriously, Beal, Towns, two, not even 3-and-D wings, but two very, very defensive-minded wings who can shoot and make some plays off the dribble. And then you can just throw in whoever. You don't need a point guard. My boy from last year, Keita Bates-Diop from Ohio State, was one of my favorite players in the draft. Falls to Minnesota in the second round. He's been turning heads. He's playing at these scrimmages, these like pickup runs in California, and he's balling. Throw him next to Towns. You could throw whoever you want. Throw another point guard. They lost Tyus Jones. You could throw, like I said, you're trading for Ish Smith. You get Ish Smith in the mix. And let me see who their point guards are real quick. But I think Beal should sign the deal and push for a trade. That would make all parties. I feel like that would make all parties happy because the Wizards would have could net a larger return, and Beal will then be making a lot of money and going to a team and player in Karl-Anthony Towns that needs it. And I'm looking at you lose Jeff Teague. I'm looking at their guards real quick.
Haven't the reports, tell me if I'm wrong, but haven't the reports been saying, and the interviews been saying, that the Wizards want to do this rebuild around Bradley Beal correctly and do it the right way? Is that just talk and saying, hey, sign with us so that we can trade you away and get more assets and we're all winners? Or is that them actually wanting to build a team around Bradley Beal?
It's tough to come to an answer with that because they just hired Sashi Brown. And for those who don't know Sashi Brown was the architect of the Browns just accumulating assets. And then he was fired because he wasn't doing anything with those assets. He just kept accumulating more and more and more. That netted a lot of positive players, Myles Garrett, Larry Ogunjobi, that he got them the first round pick to draft a Baker Mayfield and a Denzel Ward, all these things. So he is in the front office of the Wizards. I don't think it makes sense for the Wizards to build around Bradley Beal because you're not going. They don't have because John Wall's injured. He has the worst contract in the NBA. He's not going to be back healthy because he tore his Achilles. He's out for this season as well. So he missed 2 seasons of John Wall's quote-unquote prime years. He already has injury history. They draft Rui Hachimura from Gonzaga, who's a good player, but you're not drafting to do anything. Like what? There's no plan within this team. So if your plan is to build around Bradley Beal, I think you're making a mistake. And it's not because Beal's not good enough. It's the fact that you will not compete in the East with Bradley Beal, Thomas Satoransky, Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura. You're getting my point with all these players and how you can't win in the East with that.
Especially with Kevin Durant and Kyrie coming together, not this year, but next year after he comes off his injury. Because like we've talked about before, the East right now is, all right, who can win this year before Kevin Durant comes back? Because after that, who knows? The only team that's really going to be a force for real against that team is going to be the Bucks, realistically.
And Sixers. Well, don't.
And Sixers.
You see those Ben Simmons? Shooting videos?
That's true. If he gets his jump shot down, then they're definitely in the conversation. But that is a big if for him to be able to knock those down. That's what the Sixers are going to need to be able to be on the same level, the same tier as the Nets and the Bucks, in my opinion, is that if. I think the Bucks are already going to be there because Giannis, like you've said, has the potential to be the best player in NBA history because of the ability that he has on both ends of the floor.
I laughed when you said that because I'm just like sometimes hearing the words you say back, the words you say and you hear them back to yourself. It's kind of just like, man, I'm glad I said that, but sound bites out there, but it's cool. I mean, we're not going to talk about the NBA too much. We're not. I promise we're not. We're going to move on in the next couple seconds. But I said the same thing about Giannis. If Ben Simmons actually gets a jump shot, he is a top 5 player immediately. This doesn't become Joel Embiid's team. This becomes Ben Simmons' team, and it becomes Ben Simmons' conference, and it becomes Ben Simmons' league. Him and Giannis head to head, if they both got jump shots, it would honestly be like aliens. It's like watching aliens play basketball. It would be incredible. But you have any more questions, or are we moving on to some NFL talk?
No, let's keep it rolling.
Okay. All right. Oh, you don't have any questions. Okay, sorry. So, a topic we discussed before here, mainly about Le'Veon Bell, the value of running backs. And we're going to make this a kind of a twofold conversation. This is our big topic. I know we went long, not long for us, I guess. This is going to be our big conversation for this episode is running backs. And I was driving home thinking about this topic, and I thought, growing up, a lot of my favorite players were running backs. Terrell Davis, LaDainian Tomlinson, Warrick Dunn. Until Warrick Dunn pretty much told me that he's a Falcons fan Falcons player over a Bucks player, which is very interesting to me, and so forth. Like, you just love running backs, and there's so much value in them in fantasy football. And we're gonna if this conversation gives us the time to discuss some fantasy, we'll get into that. But 2 big running backs in Ezekiel Elliott and Melvin Gordon are holding out for new deals. Ezekiel Elliott, the Dallas Cowboys. Melvin Gordon of the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'll give you the floor. I just have some simple stats to show their importance to each team, but I want you to have the floor because I know we're going to be beating a dead horse with this exact same conversation. But in terms of these 2 players, in terms of Ezekiel Elliott and Melvin Gordon, let's start with Zeke. Does Zeke have a right to hold out? Especially with Dak in line to get paid $30 million per year.
Yes, because I don't think Dak's worth getting paid $30 million per year.
Oh, let's have a Dak conversation then. Why not?
This is tough to defend because it all signs point to him deserving it, but I don't think I see him and Carr in the same light, and I didn't think that Carr deserved to get the contract that he deserved. I thought it was a mistake on Oakland's end. I wouldn't pay Dak that much because that he had his first year, his rookie year was his best year, and he hasn't been able to do a whole lot since then. They were missing Fredrickson, their center, last year, and that kind of knocked the Cowboys' offensive line down a tier. And a great quarterback, a quarterback that you're paying that much, should be able to finesse their way and adapt that offense to be able to do the things that they did or need to do to be successful. But they were still running the ball. Zeke did. How many games did he play in last year?
Funny you ask. Zeke, I have the numbers for the records for both players. So, over the last 3 years, the Cowboys are 28-12 with Zeke in the line. They are 4-4 without him, including a end of the season win where they played their backups and an end of season loss where they played their backups again. The points that they scored in those 6 games that he was suspended for in 2017: 7, 9, 6, 38, 30, 20. So a little bit of inconsistency. I mean, the quality of teams they played in those 3 wins, in those 3 losses, were the Falcons, the Eagles, and the Chargers. And in their wins were against the Redskins, the Giants, and the Raiders. So pretty much like a schedule. I feel like it comes down to the schedule a little bit. But, I mean, I'm interested. I'm down to make this pivot towards a Dak and Zeke conversation because it's kind of hard to separate the two.
Yeah, they really do go hand in hand. I value Zeke more. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm valuing Zeke more than I'm valuing Dak. Zeke thankfully, has not had a long history of injuries. I'm not saying that Dak has, but as a running back, that's something that I view as very valuable of some guy that's not consistently getting banged up. When he's on the field playing well, and he's not typically missing a whole lot of games for injuries. It's just, Dak just doesn't do it for me. Like, if I'm the Cowboys and they're building a solid defense, it just seems just like you have to have a certain level, unless if you have a historically great defense with a powerful run game, like a lot of the times how the Ravens teams are built, you're just never going to be successful enough because this league is trending more and more towards passing, and I'm just never wowed by the way that Dak moves the ball down the field. He is dependent on play action, which isn't a bad thing, but he's dependent upon play action, and it's not like the Cowboys have a phenomenal receiving core. They acquired Amari Cooper, which was a great trade, and I think it's really going to pan out, and that might help boost his career a little bit. But I just don't see it. I don't see the value in signing Dak for that long when there are so many. And here's another thing: if you don't sign Dak, let's say you go draft another quarterback or you get a veteran to come in along with a rookie, and you keep continuing to build that offensive line, making sure that offensive line's good. You bring in another weapon on the outside or at tight end, and then you keep loading up on that defense and keep loading up on that D-line, that's the recipe right there. And with how the NFL is trending towards, well, the thing is there are a lot more the quarterbacks are getting better, not because of just the rules. Like people think, oh, it's a quarterback friendly league because the rules and the the way pass interferences are called and the way receivers can run routes and how the quarterback's protected. That is true, but that's not the whole story. Kids are throwing the ball, like kids, like Pop Warner, middle schoolers, high schoolers are throwing the ball a lot more in 7-on-7 passing leagues, running spread offenses in middle school, in high school, a lot more. These kids are getting a lot more one-on-one training on how to throw the ball and knowing where to go with the football. And you're getting a lot of dual athletes like an Adrian Martinez from Nebraska or a Tua from Bama, the Marcus Mariota types. He's not a phenomenal passer, but even Lamar Jackson, a guy that's more than likely wouldn't be playing quarterback, but it's just so great with the ball in his hands. It's hard to deny, and he's a good enough passer that you want to have the ball in his hands on every play at some point. So players, as they come up, are getting better and better at passing, and I think that the quarterback depth the quality of quarterback depth across the NFL is just going to continue to get better and better and better, especially with the way the NFL aims to protect their quarterbacks. And you drafted Dak as a fourth round pick, correct?
Yeah. After failing to trade up and get Paxton Lynch, by the way. That should be noted.
And if maybe you can't, maybe if you're Jerry Jones, you can't trust yourself to be able to hit another fourth round gem and get another quarterback like that. But at the same time, if you're only a quarterback away and you've built the rest of your team and you have the ability to keep acquiring high-end free agents that you can pay a little bit more at more premium positions, why wouldn't you just want to package? How many teams have traded out of their original pick, or teams that have traded up that have been later in the draft to get quarterbacks?
Every year it happens.
Every year it happens. So why can't the Cowboys do that if they have the rest of their team already built around them? And then you take your ceiling from being, because I think with Dak, your ceiling is divisional round of the playoffs. But Dak ain't beating the Bears. Dak's not beating the Packers. Dak's not beating the Saints or the Eagles.
So it puts a ceiling. So because I'm looking at Dak's regular seasons, rookie 13-3, 2017 9-7, last year 10-6, yards even 23, 22, 22 touchdown totals through the air, 4 picks, 13 picks, 8 picks. Average yard. The thing about the yard, his yards per attempt and air yards per attempt have not gotten back to his rookie year number of 8.6. And he's still a threat running the ball. He has. Let me look at this. He's had 6 rushing touchdowns in every single season. This guy's just consistent. So you don't think that there would be any, what's the word? Any like warming period time that if they drafted a rookie quarterback that would take time to adapt to this team, because this team loves Dak. And we've been in college locker rooms, and just having that chemistry and continuity and just believing in your guy, that goes a long way throughout reverberates with the whole team. So who, like you said, you want to draft someone who is even in your mind could come in, because the window for the Cowboys is right now, because their defense is, everyone in that defense is going to be due massive contracts. I think they should pay Zeke. They should pay him in a 3-year deal though, because that's when in the future, that's when all their people are going to be due. But the problem with that is that can you pay Dak 3 years as well? Because it seems like Dak's holding out for 5 years. Let me do the math in my head. $150 million deal. And that is money that's scary money. That is scary money.
That's my issue. Dak's just not on the same. I'm not saying it would be a Kirk Cousins level mistake to sign him to a contract like that.
That's a great question. Very, very quickly. If you're the Cowboys, Cousins or Prescott?
Dak.
Okay, dang.
Dak gets you to a higher ceiling than Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Like we've said time and time again, you can't trust Kirk. I can trust Dak to make enough plays, but he is not going to be the guy making enough plays to get me to where I need to be. I don't think he's going to cost you the game. Kirk Cousins could easily cost you the game. We've seen it time and time again. Dak's not going to cost you the game. But if it's a balance between do I pay, that's tough to say because there are so many running backs coming out every single year. It's easier to draft a solid running back and plug it behind an offensive line than it is to pay a quarterback.
I feel like every situation should be in context, and I feel like every part of the Cowboys' offense fits each other. I feel like the O-line makes everything possible, but I feel like Dak and Zeke, they fit each other perfectly. They've gone to hockey games together. I like their O-line. The receivers are there. They have Jason Witten back. I don't know, man. It's picking and picking and choosing stuff. Because are you going to pay a running back $16 million, or do you want to pay a quarterback $30 million to have the most important position in football locked up? So this is like a very, very just interesting test case for how teams value young quarterback and a young dominant running back.
I think the bigger issue at hand, it's something that we've kind of talked about off the pod, and I'm happy that we're finally addressing it. I think the bigger issue at hand is how I think running backs, since they do have such a shorter lifespan in the NFL than literally any other position, I think the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement that is going to be taking place next year, because this time next year we could be dealing with a lockout. Very real possibility that we could be dealing with another NFL lockout, and we may be looking at no football for a little bit of time. We got football this year,
which means
we're living in the now,
which means more NBA talk, baby.
Which is going to be huge because that's when Kevin Durant's coming back too. So the balance of how awesome sports will still be intact.
That's true.
But I feel like I hope the NFL Players Association, the NFLPA, can somehow, some way finesse salary caps so that these running backs that are laying their bodies and their brains on the line more so than any position can get compensated accordingly without teams having to be like, all right, if we pay our running back, we literally can't get any other position. I would love to see some type of contingency or some type of condition where running backs kind of get a special treatment contract-wise, because it's not about like teams not having enough money to pay them. It's just they don't have enough money within the salary cap to pay. It's not like these teams are broke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just raising the salary cap in general would help. But the thing is that we have so many more. It's not analytics' fault. It's just the fact, because Bill Belichick's been doing it for years, is that the analytics movement devalues running backs. I'm not saying it should, but I'm not saying they shouldn't devalue the position. But it is the one position in the NFL where you're just like, hey, we don't want it. We don't want you. Receivers get massive paydays now too. But I mean, the Patriots won with Cordell Patterson running routes and Julian Edelman running routes. Like, so these offensive skill positions are such interesting test studies, because you want to pay the Julios all the money they want in the world, but does a receiver or a running back absorbing that much of your salary, is that best for team building? And from what we've seen, I don't think so, which is unfortunate, because these receivers and running backs are at the forefront of all fantasy conversations. They're the backbone. They're the winners. They win us money. They drive so much of all the money that makes the sport go, and so much interest in the sport. but they're not getting it compensated properly for it. And I think that's a perfect transition to Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon's holding out for money. Says he wants to stay in LA, wants to come to a deal, wants to do all these things. And it makes sense, you want to make yourself money. But then you look at the reasons why, and it makes a lot more sense. He has not played in I don't think 13 games in his 4 seasons in the NFL. I feel like he's trying to get a final payday. I feel like he understands that there are short shelf life for running backs. It's a position, like we've been talking about, it's a position that's not valued as highly as it is. And Gordon has an injury history. So why wouldn't a player like Gordon want to try to maximize his payday right now? This is his chance to make a move, because guess what? His contract's done in a year. And no one's going to be shelling out the money for Melvin Gordon with his injury history. So I think this is him realizing, hey, this is my chance to make a payday. And for me to do that one makes sense. Maybe not for the Chargers, but maybe for the Chargers, because they have Joey Bosa, Derwin James. They have contracts that are going to be due down the line. Just give him a short-term, front-loaded contract. Let him do it. Chargers have one of the worst O-lines in football. Russell Okung's a question mark moving forward. Why not just say, hey, Melvin, we appreciate what you've done here, and here's a little reward. And then you look at it. They are 22-18 with him since 2016. They are 4-3 without him, but they were 4-0 without him last year when the Chargers were truly a great team. So, in terms of Melvin Gordon's situation, two things, two-part. First, do you understand why he's holding out? And secondly, do you think he has a right, not a right to, you have a right to anything, should the Chargers buckle down and pay him?
I do understand why he's holding out. But in terms of to compare it to the Zeke situation, I think Zeke adds a lot more value to the Cowboys than Melvin adds value to the Chargers. Zeke keeps that offense on schedule. But here's the difference. Phillip Rivers versus Dak.
Yep.
Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and he is the leader of that team. And it doesn't matter who he has next to him. They're going to make things work. And that's what I think the difference between the whole Cowboys versus Chargers situation. Melvin has had injuries every single year. He has not played in 13. He's played in max 13 games every single year, or in one season. Is that what you said?
Who? I'm sorry, which player?
Melvin.
Yeah, let me look. I have the game logs real quick. He played in 12 last year. He played in... Oh, he started all 16 games 2017. I apologize to you, Melvin Gordon. I apologize. And in 2016, he played 13 and didn't even start 2 games. And finally, in 2015, his rookie year, he played 14 games, 12 starts. So, my bad for messing those numbers up.
But he has had a history of injuries. He's not as valuable to the team's success as Zeke is for the Cowboys. I understand why he's holding out, but I agree with the same process that you agree. I think just front-load a contract for 2-3 years with a team option for a 4th, if that's something he would be interested in, something he would go for if it was front-loaded. Give him X amount of guaranteed money and capitalize while you have your young studs on rookie contracts in terms of Bosa and Derwin James, among other players that they have on young deals right now.
I mean, it's such a tough thing because Melvin Gordon has scored 10 touchdowns in 3 straight years. Like, he's consistent. But this is not, and he averaged 5.1 yards per carry last year. But this offense predicated on throwing the ball, and you have Philip Rivers, you have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams. You have all these weapons. You're going to want to use them in the air. All the play actions help sets all that stuff up. But I mean, they scored 33 points at Pittsburgh without him. They scored 26 against the Bengals, 29 in Kansas City in a game they won. And then they beat Tennessee 2019 in London. So this team's shown they can win without him just as recently as last year. And this organization has not been shy in trading beloved running backs or letting him go. They let LaDainian Tomlinson walk, and they drafted Ryan Matthews to replace him. Then they draft Melvin Gordon to replace Ryan Matthews, and now the man in line to be, because Austin Eckler is the guy everyone wants, and he is the guy who's going to be getting he's still going to be a pass catching threat, but the runner they're going to be there is Justin Jackson from Northwestern. And does the pair of Justin Jackson and Austin Eckler, can those two equal what the production that Melvin Gordon does for a full 16-game season?
Yes. Zero hesitation, yes. Justin Jackson was continuously one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. He is not going to blow you away with crazy highlight plays or the crazy, not that Melvin Gordon's crazy athletic, like a Saquon Barkley, but they're both solid tier 2, tier 3 running backs, and collectively they fit, like how you were talking about how the Cowboys and how all those pieces kind of fit together. They kind of would be able to mesh and be able to help keep the Chargers offense intact, at least while Philip Rivers is still there. And I can't justify the Chargers shelling out the money, at least on a long-term deal basis, for Melvin Gordon. Because all of these, like, my principle is you can't pay running backs because you can always just go draft one. But you have to look at it in terms of each team and their fit and the chemistry. And that's why when you bring up the chemistry aspect of the Cowboys, that's why it kind of pains me inside to say that I don't think the Cowboys should pay Dak that much. But I guess it's more dependent on what else do they put around him and how else do the roster moves make. But it just doesn't seem as if paying Zeke and paying Dak are feasible. And I think in the long term, I think they're going to end up, if they had to choose between the two, they're going to pick Dak. Because why wouldn't you pick the quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
I just think that caps the Cowboys' ceiling at a place that they don't want it to be at. Because he'll never be a better, consistently will never be, as long as Carson Wentz stays healthy, he'll never be a better quarterback than Carson Wentz in the NFC East. And you have Dwayne Haskins coming up, who was drafted at, 12?
16, 17 range?
Yeah, and so you're telling me you can't trade up and get a Dwayne Haskins type of quarterback at 16, 17 range and get him on a rookie deal instead of keeping Dak? Because at least for me right now, obviously we have not seen Dwayne Haskins play. But if you told me that the Cowboys were going to extend Zeke and we're going to get Dwayne Haskins on a rookie deal versus signing Dak for 5 years, $150 million, $30 million a year, I'd rather have that. And there are going to be more and more and more quarterbacks coming out of college that can fit these NFL systems. That's where I'm at. I just don't know. I'm not saying there's a reason that Dak went in the 4th round, but he obviously has done great things for the Cowboys organization. But the goal is Super Bowl. The goal is to win championships. Mm-hmm. At least I think. And I don't think some teams, I wonder if that's their goal.
Yeah. But do you, because we go back to Cowboys always, do you think the Northwest Warrior himself, Kellen Moore, becoming offense coordinator, do you think that is going to have a big...
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, Kellen Moore the reason that he's coach, when he played at Boise, he was a coach's son. And so growing up under a coach's son, you're just going to get, it's very kind of cheesy in the sports world to say, but he's going to get that experience that other players aren't going to have. And he has the potential to understand the game on a different level than other players. The only reason he was ever good, particularly at Boise, and broke all those records at Boise, was because he understood where to go with the football and how to do it. Not because he had a crazy arm like Pat Mahomes, or not because he had crazy legs like Lamar Jackson. He just knew where to go to the football and when. And I think him being offensive coordinator that's something I wanted to mention, has the potential to take Dak to the next level. And if I don't think Dak lacks the ability to get them to the next level. I just haven't seen it without a top 5 running game. And to me, that screams Joe Flacco.
Oh, man, you brought up Joey Ice, elite. Oh, man. Dude, the thing about, me, my quarterback, so we had this discussion a bunch of times. If you can extend and make plays, that's a positive. But like you said, Dak does not have the velocity on his balls. He's good with timing, but it's a run team. It's a run-first team. I just want to see Kellen Moore, what the scheme changes he has as to Scott Linehan's offense, because you could predict every single play coming with Scott Linehan. And yes, it was successful, but I think incorporating even more spread, if we see Dak in shotgun more often than not, running read option, and RPOs and stuff, everyone's favorite 3 letters, RPOs, I think that this offense could be one of the league's best.
I agree. I completely discounted the Kellen Moore aspect, but we always talk that coaching change has the ability to open Dak's mind up a little bit more and get him into, because I just think that brings up a good point. I think Dak has been playing in a scheme that hasn't necessarily been fitting him. It fits Tony Romo, but I don't think it best fits what he does best. So let me put it this way. If Dak were to be on the Vikings replacing Kirk Cousins, I would have a lot more faith in the Vikings than I do now.
And he looks so much better in purple than Kirk, man.
Yeah.
I can't stand Kirk's jersey sleeves. They bother me so much. We went back to Dak again. I love it. We sound like the national media now, always talking Cowboys. Well, just to put the running back conversation at end, spending a lot of money for a running back when you can draft Darrell Henderson in the 3rd round, and you have him on a cheap rookie contract for 4 years, that sounds a lot more frugal.
Fiscally responsible.
Yes, fiscally frugal than blowing. I'll tell you off air what I was gonna say instead, but we're on a friendly airways right now. We got to keep this PG. But spending all your money on a running back, when has that worked? Is there any success where we've seen a team pay a running back a lot of money besides Todd Gurley, and we've seen what happens when Todd Gurley's not in the lineup? And now they're seeing the downside to it, because I think the injury is overblown in terms of how good he's going to be this year. But, you draft Darrell Henderson to spell Gurley and as a reassurance plan. So we'll see how much Gurley's probably already earned that contract, the full contract. But how will he be at the end of the years? Which is why the Gordon deals. If you want to sign running backs, just do these NBA deals. Just take a page on the NBA playbook for once, the NFL. Sign these players to 2-3 year deals. Nobody wants to live in the same place. We saw Jalen Ramsey pull up to Jacksonville in a money truck with money everywhere. You think he's going to be in Jacksonville next year? No, he wants his money, the money he deserves. So there's just so many things that are out of just embrace that. Just do a better job promoting your non-quarterback players and your JJ Whites. Wow, that came out wrong. But yeah, just do a better job.
That was bad.
It's all good. We make mistakes.
Yeah, I appreciate it though.
I was thinking in my head, they promote their quarterbacks a lot, and predominantly the quarterback position is of that color tone. So I'm not casting any dispersions. I'm not casting any dispersions at the NFL, but I'll leave it at that. So yeah, sign them to short year deals so you maintain your long-term cap flexibility. But it is what it is. So I believe we've reached the hour plateau. We have. Very quickly, fantasy football. It's what the people really care about. We'll get to the fantasy stuff is coming. I know you guys value both of our opinions. We're going to dive into all of this stuff. You have picks 1, 2, and 3 in fantasy. Are you even considering receiver is the first question? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay.
Even if it's PPR, no.
Okay. If you have pick 1, 2, and 3, who are you going running back wise?
Probably Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, and honestly, I would probably go. The popular pick here is probably Le'Veon, I would say, but if Zeke is there for week 1 and they get the contract stuff figured out and he's not holding out into the season, I would probably say Zeke.
I'm right there. The only player that I thought about putting above Zeke was David Johnson.
Yeah, me too. But with the only reason I put David Johnson be number 4 for me, but those two could easily switch. The only reason that Zeke goes ahead is the Travis Frederickson, that center coming back for the Cowboys, is huge. Mm-hmm. That cannot be stated enough. Upgrading center is the best offensive line upgrade you can make. Screw left tackle. Upgrade your center. If you ain't got a good center, your offensive line is dumb in the head, and you can't do what you need to do.
Oh, man. And trust me, we'll be talking a lot about David Johnson because I think I'm just going to spend the whole entire season as an Arizona Cardinals fan and just talking about all them. But that's all we got for today, guys. NFL's back. College football's back. Training camps. Every team is training camp. Very quickly, I thought about this before the fantasy question. Isn't it funny and ironic how everyone in the NFL is trying to devalue running backs, but the only thing holding the Bucs offense back is a running back?
Yeah, the irony of it all is see, people are like, oh yeah, we don't need running backs. Y'all need a balance. Y'all just don't want to pay for running backs because of the way that salary caps are made. But if you're telling me that Melvin Gordon or a Zeke or a Saquon or a Christian McCaffrey wouldn't take this Bucs offense to the craziest Madden offense ever, you're just wrong.
Dude, I sent you the Chris Godwin tweet where Bruce Arians said he's not coming off the field, and my response was literally, sex. That is the greatest thing I've ever read in my life when it comes to Chris Godwin.
It's Buccaneer fan porn.
It is, and we don't have a lot of it these days. But I mean, yeah, dude. I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation to have. But Noah, my man, thanks for coming on. You enjoy your weekend. Everyone else, enjoy your weekend. The floor is yours for the promotion stuff, Noah.
We're on Twitter. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We should be out on Instagram soon once Instagram contacts me back.
There's an Instagram holdup?
Yeah, I reached out to Instagram because I want to be No Ordinary Pod on Instagram, and they said our noordinarypod@gmail.com is taken, but we own that Gmail. And then when I go to look up, all right, No Ordinary, I try to reset the password, and it says this Gmail's not found. And I go, what? And then I try to type in No Ordinary Pod user under a different email, and it doesn't let me do that because it says that it's already taken. And then I search No Ordinary Pod,
and nothing comes
under
up, right?
Users. And nothing comes up, and I go.
Same thing happened with me when I tried to make it. I'm
like, yo, all right. If y'all don't want us to be No Ordinary Pod, fine. We'll just go. Sade is queen. That's fine. But other than that, if you like what we do, give us a follow. We're going to be here all football season, trying to pod anywhere between 2 and 5 times a week.
Oh yeah.
Once the football season starts kicking off. Once I'm done with school, we're going to be having all previews for every single division. We're going to be having some fantasy previews. We're going to be making Super Bowl predictions, playoff predictions. We're even going to be talking about the teams that are going to be lower end that we like looking forward as non-playoff teams. We're going to be looking at all elements of it and see the state of each team moving forward. So we got a lot of exciting things. We're doing this and we're recording this not because we're trying to make it big by any means, but we just love what we do. We love podcasting and we have great conversation, and we've realized that, we're right a time or two. So we're just going to keep it on rolling on the No Ordinary Pod.
That's very well spoken. Oh, the Twitter page, that's my fault. I don't tweet a lot in my own thing, and I need to, I know. But I'm going to be more promotional on that. Like I said, we have merch. I think our merch, which is the most crazy thing ever, is that I think our merch sold out within 2 days, which is mind-blowing. But we'll be having some fun stuff throughout the year. We're going to get some Can't Trust Kirk shirts that will probably blow up in our face, but I'm kidding. It's Kirk Cousins. Who am I kidding?
It is Kirk Cousins.
So, Noah, thank you for hopping on. Enjoy your weekend. He is Noah Hemer. I am Michael Duggar. We are the No Ordinary Pod on the No Ordinary Pod and Radio St. Pete Network. Stay dry for those in Florida. Stay warm for those who are in that mountain town in Oregon, and everyone else in between. Drink water. Hydrate. Go Nose, go Jesus.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste always.